How and why was the Colossus of Rhodes made? We know that it was made for Helios, but was there a specific reason? Is it even real, or is it just a story from mythology, or is it made up because it sounds interesting? Hi everyone and welcome to my new video. I'm so thrilled to talk about this subject. The subject is about something in Greece and I love Greece. I am learning the language. I visit Greece often and I have Greek friends, so I just love the culture and the people and the food especially. The first time I went to Greece, I went to the island Rhodes, and it's also the island where my friend comes from. And on Rhodes there was a statue called the Colossus of Rhodes. And it's weird that I haven't thought about it because it's very mysterious and it's a very good topic for this channel. Did it truly exist or did people make it up? I will talk about all the things we know and all the things we don't know. And then we can conclude if it's true or just a mythical story or something they made up. Rhodes is one of the biggest islands in Greece. It is the biggest island of the Dodecanese Islands if you look at the land area. In 2011 it had 50,000 inhabitants. The shape of the island is a spear and it's also known as the island of the sun god Helios. It's located northeast of Crete, southeast of Athens and close to the Anatolian coast of Turkey. You can see the mountains of Turkey if you're on the right side of the island, for example in Ixia, and it takes 1 hour with the boat to get there. Rhodes is known for the Knights of St. John who conquered the island in 1300 and tried to protect it from the Ottoman Empire. They didn't succeed, but you can still see their buildings in all of Rhodes, especially in Rhodes city. Since a lot of different cultures and religions have conquered the island, you can see a lot of different churches and architecture. There is even a big mosque in the city of Rhodes. The old town of Rhodes has been declared a World Heritage Site, which means that it will be protected because it has important history. Besides the influence of the knights, you can also see things from ancient Greece, for example on the Acropolis of Rhodes or in Lindos. Most of the ruins are temples and Olympic stadiums. Rhodes is one of the most popular vacation locations in Greece and I always love to go back there because it's just a very beautiful place and it has a special place in my heart. Although Rhodes is a small island compared to the whole world, it has been of great importance in the past. The main reason for that was that Rhodes had a strategic position and it was especially convenient for people who wanted to trade or for wars. It was close to Greece, Turkey and also Alexandria. It has been a part of Alexander the Great's empire in 332 BC. After his death, Rhodes formed strong commercial and cultural ties with the Ptolemies, which was a royal Greek Macedonian family in the Hellenic era in Alexandria. Together they formed the Rhodo-Egyptian alliance that controlled the trade throughout the Aegean in the 3rd century BC. Rhodes was also known for its famous schools in philosophy, science, rhetoric and literature. Important figures from the Roman Empire went to Rhodes to go to their schools. One of the schools was the Posidonius, which was named after its founder. Cicero, a Roman orator, statesman and writer, went there when he was young. Julius Caesar also came to Rhodes and he was also taught by Apollonius Molon, who taught Cicero. Before I can talk about the Colossus of Rhodes, it's important that I tell you a little bit of Greek mythology. There are many versions of Greek mythology, so maybe you have learned it different. I went to the cinema in Rhodes where they showed a video about how the island started to exist. Of course this was Greek mythology, so it's not true for as far as we know. And I'm gonna tell you that story because that is what the people there believe. And that's more important than what others believe, since they live there. According to myth, Rhodes would have never existed if Helios didn't come too late to the meeting, where Zeus, the supreme god, gave every other god an own country to be worshipped on and to rule. Helios was the sun god and he was the son of the Titan Hyperion and the Titaness Thea. He was also the brother of Selene, who was the moon, and of Eos, the dawn. Helios was a handsome young man crowned with the shining aureole of the sun. He drove the chariot of the sun across the sky. The chariot was drawn by steeds, horses with flaming hair. They were called Helios, Ios, Athon, and Plegon. Many people identify Helios with Apollo. In some stories, Helios is just the sun and Apollo is the god of the sun. Apollo is also the god of music, truth and prophecy, healing, the sun and light, plague, poetry, and even more. But in this story you have to forget about Apollo. I'm just gonna focus on Helios. Because Helios was the god of the sun, he had to ride the skies to turn day into night and vice versa. This took a lot of time and that's why he was late to the meeting that Zeus organized. Helios begged Zeus for a country, but Zeus already gave away everything he had. But he felt sorry for Helios. After all, he was late because he had to perform his duty. So he decided to make an island for him. So he did, and an island emerged from the sea. Helios watched as the water made way for the rocks. He gifted the land with beautiful flora and fauna, prosperity, and also, of course, a lot of sunlight. He looked around the island and then a beautiful figure caught his eye, and it was a nymph with the name Rhode. He fell head over heels in love and he decided to name the island after her. From that day on, the island was named Rhodes, or in Greek, Rhodos. They got 7 sons and 1 daughter. Helios was the most important god on that island, so they started to build temples for him and honor him, and I guess many more other things. So this is how Rhodes emerged according to Greek mythology. But how and why was the Colossus of Rhodes made? We know that it was made for Helios. But was there a specific reason? Is it even real, or is it just a story from mythology, or is it made up because it sounds interesting? For now, it's still one of the 7 wonders from the ancient world. The other ones are the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Temple of Artemis, the Statue of Zeus in Olympia, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Only the Great Pyramid of Giza is still standing and is also the oldest one of this list. Some of the wonders haven't even been found, so they don't even know if they existed. The Colossus hasn't been found in modern times, but there are writers who claim that they found parts of the Colossus somewhere in the country. They either saw the ruins or they claim that they have seen how it was built and why it was built and when it was built. As I said before, the Colossus was a statue of the sun god Helios. Supposedly it was built in 280 BC by Helios of Lindos, who was a Greek sculptor. It was constructed to celebrate Rhodes' victory over the ruler of Cyprus called Antigonus I Monophthalmus. His son Demetrius tried to siege Rhodes in 305 BC, but he failed. Rhodes had allied with Ptolemy I of Egypt. He was the ruler of Egypt, as I mentioned before in my video about the Library of Alexandria. He was half Greek himself, so he made Alexandria the center of Greek culture. Ptolemy was helping Rhodes and he sent his ships to Rhodes. Demetrius didn't have enough men, so he just left the siege and also his equipment because he was just afraid that he was gonna lose anyway. The Rhodians decided to sell the equipment for 300 talents, which was their money. Because of the victory, they wanted to honor the patron god, which was Helios, of course. They all agreed to use the money to make a colossal statue of their god. Chares, who was a native of Lindos, which was one of the biggest cities in Rhodes, was the leader of the construction. The construction started in 292 BC. There are different stories about which material was used, but most of the people stated that they used iron tie bars to which breastplates were fixed to form the skin. The interior of the structure, which stood on a 15-meter high white marble pedestal, was filled with stone blocks as construction progressed. There are different stories about where the Colossus was placed, but most people believe that it was placed in the Mandraki harbor. Some people believe that the statue was standing over the harbor with both of his legs on different places, like in Game of Thrones when you go to Bravos. And other people think that he was standing on one side, like the Statue of Liberty in America. According to most descriptions, the statue was about 70 cubits or 32 meters tall. It was the tallest statue of that time. Much of the bronze and iron was reforged from the weapons that Demetrius' army left behind. They used the bronze for the outer shell of the statue. The body would be filled with stones. The construction took them higher and higher, so eventually they had to create a new method to reach higher heights. They would build earthen ramps to cover all sides of the Colossus until it resembled a gigantic anthill. When they were completing the statue, they removed the earth and the statue stood solitary. The statue stood 48 meters, which was bizarre for that time period. The statue stood for 54 years until it was hit by an earthquake in 226 BC. A very big part of the city was damaged and so was the Colossus. The statue snapped at the knees and fell over onto the land. Ptolemy III offered to pay for the reconstruction, but superstition got the better of the people of Rhodes. And that was because an oracle of Delphi, who was somebody who could talk with the gods, said that they might have offended Helios, so if they rebuild it, they would offend him again. So the Rhodians were of course afraid that he would be angry with them, and so they decided to just leave it the way it was. Accounts of Philo and Pliny, who saw the ruins and described them, are our main sources. It is said that the remains of the Colossus laid on the ground for 800 years. People even traveled from far and wide to see them. Pliny the Elder wrote that people were stunned by its sheer size. People could barely wrap their arms around its stump. His finger was even taller than most statues from that time. In 693, Muslim Caleb Muawiyah I captured the island. He was not impressed with the remains of the statue, and according to the chronicle of Theophanes the Confessor, he melted down the remaining parts and sold it to a Jewish merchant. And that is supposedly the reason why there's nothing left anymore. There are other plans to make a new Colossus in Rhodes, but nothing has been confirmed yet. I do hope they do it because that would be so cool. For now, 2 small deer statues are standing on both sides of the harbor. It is really great to imagine that the great Colossus once stood there. So did the Colossus of Rhodes exist? I think it's possible. There is a lot of information. Of course the stories are old and we don't have evidence because we can't find the Colossus. So we have to believe them by their word. But the stories are similar, so yeah, that is very good news for the people who want to believe that it existed. It's not impossible because they made the pyramids many years before the Colossus was made, and we don't even know how they managed to do that, so I wouldn't say that it's impossible to make a Colossus in that time period. I don't think that we will find the remains of the Colossus. If the story is true about the merchant, I'm sure that the stuff is already reforged into something else. And that's ironic because that's the whole reason how the Colossus was made, by reforging the weapons of an army. But it is a very nice story to tell the tourists in Rhodes. I was also very intrigued by the story. And who knows, maybe they make a new Colossus of Rhodes, and I'm sure that I'm gonna visit Rhodes when they do so. And I go back anyway, and I would really recommend you all to do the same. It's a very beautiful island, and even if the Colossus is not there, there are many other things to do there. You will never be bored, so just go there. This was my video about the Colossus of Rhodes. If you want more videos about the 7 wonders of the ancient world, let me know in the comments. If you have another very interesting idea for a video, also let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like it even more, subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye and have a nice week.